Beloved child. Stop for a moment. Do not rush past these words as though they are ordinary, because something has been trying to reach your heart, and tonight, the silence around you is not as empty as it seems. There is a message moving toward you through the unseen, carried not by fear, not by pressure, but by a love that has been holding back words for far too long. You were not brought here by accident. Something within you recognized this moment before your mind could explain it. Stay close, because what you are about to hear is connected to the person your soul has not been able to forget. Your soulmate wants you to know something right now. Not tomorrow. Not when everything becomes easier. Not after every unanswered question has finally found its explanation. Right now, while you are still carrying uncertainty, while part of you is still wondering whether the connection was real, whether the memories meant as much to them as they meant to you, whether the silence was distance or simply a heart struggling to find the courage to speak. There is something they have been trying to say without saying it. You may have felt it in the strange moments when their presence suddenly crossed your mind. You may have noticed their memory appearing when you were not searching for it, arriving in the middle of an ordinary day with such force that you had to pause. Perhaps you wondered why your emotions shifted so quickly. Perhaps you told yourself it was nothing more than memory. But heaven has seen what you could not see. There has been a quiet movement taking place inside their heart, and it has reached a point where it can no longer remain buried. They have been thinking about you differently. Not with the careless curiosity of someone looking back at the past. Not with the temporary longing that disappears when life becomes busy again. Their thoughts have become deeper, more serious, and more honest than they were prepared for. Something recently happened within them. It was not loud. No one around them may have noticed it. Yet in a private moment, when there was no one left to impress and no distraction strong enough to silence the truth, they realized that what they feel for you has never truly gone away. That realization unsettled them. Because it forced them to face a question they had been avoiding. What if the connection they tried to understand with logic was never meant to be explained by logic alone? They have compared what they felt with you to other experiences. They have tried to convince themselves that time would make the bond smaller. They may have believed that distance would weaken it, that new routines would erase it, or that silence would eventually turn the memory into something harmless. But instead, the opposite began to happen. The more they tried to move forward without acknowledging the truth, the more clearly your absence revealed what your presence had meant. You were not simply another person in their story. You changed the way they understood closeness. You awakened emotions they did not know how to carry. You made them feel seen in places they had kept hidden from everyone else. And because that feeling was powerful, they did not always respond to it with wisdom. Sometimes a person can recognize something precious and still become afraid of what it asks them to become. Your soulmate wants you to understand this. Their silence was not always a sign of indifference. There were moments when they almost reached out. Moments when they opened a message, stared at your name, and imagined what they would say if pride, uncertainty, and fear were removed from the way. They thought about asking how you were. They thought about telling you that something reminded them of you. They thought about admitting that certain memories still return more often than they should. But each time, something stopped them. It was not because you meant too little. It was because you meant enough to make the outcome matter. They feared that you had changed. They feared that you had already closed the door. They feared that you might hear their words and feel nothing. And beneath all of those fears was one deeper fear they rarely admit, even to themselves. They were afraid that coming back toward you would require them to confront the ways they had failed to protect the connection when it was still within reach. That truth has been following them. There is a particular memory they keep returning to. It may be a conversation, a goodbye, an unfinished sentence, or a moment when your eyes said more than your voice could express. They did not understand the weight of that moment then. They understand more of it now. They can see how much you were trying to communicate without demanding that they understand. They can see where you were patient, where you were hurt, and where you began to withdraw because your heart could not keep standing in the same uncertainty. Your soulmate wants you to know they noticed more than you believed. They noticed when your energy changed. They noticed when your responses became shorter, when your warmth became careful, when you stopped revealing everything you felt. At the time, they may have acted as though nothing had changed. But inside, they felt the difference. They knew a part of you was stepping back. They simply did not know how to stop it without admitting how deeply your presence affected them. And now, what they once avoided has become the very thing they cannot stop thinking about. They wonder whether you still feel the bond. They wonder whether you still remember the small details. They wonder whether you have someone else in your thoughts now. They wonder whether the window has closed while they were still trying to understand why they were afraid to open the door. But listen closely, because the message becomes deeper here. Your soulmate is not only thinking about the past. They have begun imagining a future in which the connection is given another chance to become what it could not become before. This does not mean every obstacle has disappeared. It does not mean they have suddenly become fearless. It does not mean the path ahead is without questions. But something inside them has shifted from avoidance to consideration. They are no longer only asking, "Why did this happen?" They are asking, "What would happen if I stopped running from it?" That question is changing them. They have started to see that love cannot be protected through silence. A connection cannot grow while both hearts are waiting for the other to become brave first. Truth cannot enter a room where pride keeps every window closed. And although they may not yet know exactly how to express what is happening, they are closer to honesty than they have ever been. There is something else they want you to know. They never forgot the way you made them feel when you believed in them. You may have offered encouragement during a time when they did not believe in themselves. You may have seen possibility in them before they were ready to see it. You may have spoken words that seemed simple to you but remained with them long afterward. There were things you said that became part of their inner voice. Even if they never thanked you properly, your presence left light in places where they had been carrying doubt. They remember that light now. In recent days, something has reminded them of the version of themselves they were when you were close. Not because everything was perfect, but because they felt more awake. More aware. More challenged to become honest. You did not simply comfort them. You reflected parts of them they could no longer ignore. That is why your connection felt beautiful and difficult at the same time. You touched the places they wanted loved, but you also touched the places they had not healed. When love reaches an unhealed heart, it does not always receive a peaceful welcome. Sometimes it is met with distance. Sometimes it is questioned. Sometimes it is pushed away because receiving love requires a person to believe they are worthy of keeping it. Your soulmate has struggled with that belief. They may have appeared confident. They may have acted as though they were in control. They may have hidden behind busyness, humor, independence, or silence. Yet beneath those layers, there has been a quiet fear that if you truly saw every part of them, you would eventually leave. So they created distance before you could create it. They delayed honesty before you could reject it. They held back affection before you could take it away. But the walls they built to protect themselves also kept them from receiving the very thing their heart had been asking for. They see that now. And that realization has not come gently. There was a recent moment when they felt your absence more intensely than before. Perhaps they heard a song. Perhaps they passed a familiar place. Perhaps someone spoke about love, regret, or timing. Perhaps they saw two people sharing the kind of understanding they once felt with you. Whatever triggered it, the feeling opened something they had kept closed. For a few moments, they could no longer pretend. They saw your face in their mind. They remembered your voice. They remembered the way you looked at them when you were trying to understand what they were too afraid to explain. And in that moment, they felt the full weight of what could be lost if they continued to remain silent. This is why the message has found you now. Not to make you chase them. Not to make you abandon your dignity. Not to tell you to pause your life and wait in uncertainty. Heaven is not asking you to shrink yourself for love. You are being shown this because your heart deserves clarity about what has been happening beneath the surface. You were not imagining everything. The connection affected them. Your absence affected them. Your growth is affecting them now. Yes, your growth. They can feel that you are no longer standing in the same emotional place where they left you. Something in you has become stronger. You have begun learning how to carry love without losing yourself inside it. You have started to understand that your worth is not decided by who chooses you, who returns, or who finally recognizes what you offered. And strangely, this is part of what is drawing them toward truth. When you were waiting for them to validate the bond, they felt the pressure of your hope. But as you began returning to yourself, the energy changed. You stopped pulling on the connection in the same way. You may still care. You may still feel them. Yet your soul has begun remembering that you were whole before they arrived. They sense that shift. It has made them realize they cannot approach you with the same confusion they carried before. They know that if they return, words alone will not be enough. They cannot offer you half-truths and expect your heart to call it devotion. They cannot disappear when emotions become intense and expect you to remain where they left you. They cannot ask for access to your tenderness without bringing honesty, consistency, and courage. Your soulmate wants you to know they are beginning to understand what loving you would require. It would require presence. It would require responsibility. It would require them to stop hiding behind timing and start making choices. This understanding is both inspiring and frightening to them, because they know the connection is no longer asking for fantasy. It is asking for maturity. There is a part of them that wants to come forward immediately. That part wants to tell you everything in one breath. It wants to confess how often they have thought about you, how many times they imagined seeing you again, how deeply certain memories still affect them. But another part of them is still gathering courage. This inner struggle is why you may have felt mixed energy. One moment, you feel as though they are close. The next, they seem far away. One moment, the connection feels alive. The next, you question whether it exists at all. This is not because your intuition is broken. You have been sensing the movement between their desire to speak and their fear of what speaking will begin. Because they know once the truth is spoken, things cannot return to the safety of silence. They will have to hear your truth too. They will have to accept that you may carry wounds they helped create. They will have to listen without defending themselves. They will have to face the possibility that love is still present, but trust must be rebuilt slowly. And they know you are not the same person you were before. You have learned too much. You have cried through nights they know nothing about. You have asked questions with no answers. You have tried to release the connection, only to discover that release does not always mean forgetting. You have carried love and disappointment in the same heart, and somehow you kept going. Heaven saw every moment. Heaven saw when you questioned whether you were difficult to love. Heaven saw when you blamed yourself for their inability to communicate. Heaven saw when you replayed conversations, searching for the exact moment everything changed. But hear this clearly, you were never too much for asking for honesty. You were never unreasonable for wanting consistency. You were never wrong for hoping that love would feel like mutual movement rather than endless guessing. You were learning boundaries while they were learning courage. And those two lessons have been unfolding separately, preparing both hearts for a moment neither of you could have handled before. This does not guarantee a particular ending. Love is sacred, but choice remains sacred too. Every soul must decide whether it will rise into the truth being offered. Yet the possibility before you is more alive than you realize, because the person connected to your heart has reached an emotional threshold. They cannot continue pretending that what they feel is insignificant. Something is about to require a decision from them. A conversation may arise. A circumstance may bring your name into their awareness with unusual force. An unexpected reminder may remove the last excuse they have been using to delay. They may hear something about you, see something connected to you, or experience a moment so clear that they can no longer call the connection a coincidence. And when that happens, the words they have been holding back may begin to surface. But there is one thing they are more afraid to tell you than anything else. It is not simply that they miss you. It is not simply that they regret the distance. It is not even that they still care. The deeper truth is that they have been imagining what it would feel like to stand in front of you and admit that they recognized your importance too late. That thought has brought them to the edge of tears more than once. They wonder whether you would believe them. They wonder whether you would see sincerity in their eyes or only remember the silence. They wonder whether you would let them explain. Most of all, they wonder whether the love they failed to protect has already transformed into something they can no longer reach. This is why their heart is restless. They are not only longing for you. They are grieving the version of themselves that did not know how to hold what was given. And still, there is hope moving through the story. Because awareness is the beginning of change. A heart that finally sees can no longer return completely to blindness. A soul that finally admits the truth cannot remain comfortable in denial forever. Your soulmate is being confronted by their own emotions, not as punishment, but as invitation. They are being invited to become honest. They are being invited to stop confusing fear with wisdom. They are being invited to choose whether they will remain a memory in your life or become brave enough to create something real. But you, beloved, are being invited into something too. You are being invited to release the belief that you must convince anyone to recognize you. You are being invited to stand still in your worth. You are being invited to let their actions reveal whether their heart is ready, instead of carrying the entire connection through hope alone. Do not run toward a promise that has not yet become a choice. Do not build a future from signs while ignoring reality. Let truth come toward you in a form you can trust. You do not need to harden your heart. You only need to honor it. There is power in remaining open without becoming unprotected. There is wisdom in loving someone without abandoning yourself. There is strength in allowing another person the space to choose courage while refusing to do the choosing for them. Your soulmate wants you to know they are closer to that choice now. And there is something happening around them that you have not seen. A person in their life has noticed the change. Someone has seen them become quiet when certain subjects arise. Someone has noticed the way their expression shifts when love, regret, or second chances are mentioned. They may have been asked whether there is someone they still think about. At first, they avoided the question. But their silence answered more than words could. This person may soon say something that challenges them directly. Something like, "Why are you still holding back?" Or, "What are you afraid will happen if you tell the truth?" The question will strike deeper than expected because it will expose the excuse they have been hiding behind. And after that conversation, your soulmate will be left alone with a decision. To remain silent and possibly lose the chance forever. Or to step forward without knowing how you will respond. That moment is closer than it seems. Yet there is another layer to this message, and it is the one heaven has not allowed them to ignore. Your soulmate has recently realized that you may have misunderstood one of their final actions. Something they did, or failed to do, appeared to confirm your worst fear. It may have seemed as though they did not care. It may have appeared that they chose something or someone else. It may have looked like they walked away easily. But the hidden truth is more complicated. They did not walk away without feeling. They walked away while fighting themselves. They told themselves distance was necessary, but the distance did not create peace. They told themselves you would be better without their confusion, but part of them hoped you would somehow understand what they could not say. They expected time to make the decision feel correct. It never did. Instead, time revealed the emotional cost. They began noticing the absence of your presence in small ways. There was no one who listened quite as you did. No one who understood the meaning behind their silence in the same way. No one whose energy felt both comforting and challenging. They discovered that missing someone is not always dramatic. Sometimes it appears as 100 quiet moments in which the world continues, but something essential feels absent. They have lived through those moments. And now they want to tell you something they were once too proud to admit. They thought you would always be there. They believed there would be more time. They believed they could return when they were ready. They believed the connection was strong enough to survive every delay without consequence. But your energy has changed, and they know it. They can feel that the door is no longer wide open without condition. They sense that love may still exist, but access must now be earned through truth. This realization has created urgency in them. Not panic. Not desperation. Awakening. They are beginning to understand that sacred connections still require human courage. Heaven may arrange a meeting, awaken recognition, and create opportunities, but no angel can speak the words a person refuses to say. No sign can replace a conversation. No spiritual bond can become a relationship without choices made in the physical world. Your soulmate is being brought to this understanding. And they are closer than ever to acting on it. There is a message they have imagined sending. It begins simply, because they do not know how to carry the weight of everything at once. They may start with a question. They may mention a memory. They may pretend the contact is casual because the truth beneath it feels too vulnerable. But behind those first words will be an entire ocean. They will be watching carefully for your response. They will wonder whether warmth still exists. They will search your words for a sign that the conversation can continue. And if it does, they may finally begin revealing what happened inside them during the silence. But you must listen not only to what they say. Listen to whether they take responsibility. Listen to whether their actions align with the emotion. Listen to whether they are speaking because they are lonely or because they are ready. Your heart deserves more than a temporary return. It deserves someone who understands the sacredness of staying. This is why heaven has been working on both of you separately. Their lesson has been courage. Your lesson has been worth. Their lesson has been honesty. Your lesson has been discernment. Their lesson has been to stop running. Your lesson has been to stop chasing. And when two souls learn the lessons that once kept them apart, an old connection can return in a new form. But only if both are willing. The next movement belongs to them. You have carried enough of the invisible weight. You have sent enough silent love into the distance. You have wondered enough. The message for you now is not to force the outcome. It is to remain present in your own life while truth finds its way toward you. Something is already shifting. You may notice it first as peace. A strange calm where anxiety once lived. You may wake one morning and feel less need to search for answers. That peace will not mean the connection has disappeared. It may mean you are finally releasing control of how the truth must arrive. And that release is powerful. Because when you stop gripping the outcome, you become able to see clearly. You will recognize whether their return carries substance. You will hear what is sincere and what is incomplete. You will know whether the person standing before you is still hiding behind fear or has finally chosen growth. Your soulmate wants you to know they hope you have not given up on the possibility of them becoming who they should have been before. But heaven wants you to know something even more important. You are not required to wait for their transformation in order to live fully. Your life is not paused. Your joy is not on hold. Your purpose is not dependent on their readiness. And ironically, this truth is part of what may bring the connection into alignment. Love becomes healthier when it is no longer used as a substitute for wholeness. You are becoming whole. They are being asked to become honest. And somewhere between those two movements, a meeting point is forming. But there is still one hidden truth. One truth your soulmate has not yet spoken aloud to anyone. It concerns the last time they felt your energy pull away. They sensed something in that moment that frightened them more than they expected. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was the possibility that you were finally becoming free from the hold the connection once had over you. And that possibility made them realize something. They did not only fear losing your love. They feared losing the chance to become the person who could finally deserve it. That is the confession waiting beneath everything. That is what they want you to know right now. But the message does not end there, because the moment that awakened this confession was connected to something they recently discovered, something involving your name, a conversation they were never supposed to hear, and a truth about your feelings that they had misunderstood for far too long. And when they heard it, they made a decision in silence. A decision that may bring them closer to you sooner than you expect. But before they act, there is one final obstacle standing between their fear and their truth. And what happens when that obstacle is removed will change the direction of this connection completely.